Hi, and welcome to this talk on burnout. At the beginning of this talk, I want to give you the definition of burnout from a friend of mine, who's Brian Massey, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. This is what he says. Burnout is the inevitable outcome of unintended cumulative stress. That's a really good definition. But in other words, he's saying burnout is when we operate on empty. So in this talk on burnout, we can only skim over some important points. But I do have a link below which will take you to an article which I've written on burnout. Now, the first thing I want to mention is burnout can come through overload. In other words, we are working too hard. We're not having the rest. But sometimes we need to learn to delegate, and sometimes we need to upskill. I remember in my first church how an Christian organisation, ran a 3-day seminar on time management. That was the best thing I attended. And at the outset of ministry, it set me well for the journey ahead of me. Another reason for burnout is because we are wanting to prove something to ourselves. We are really trying to say, I'm okay, and I want you to consider me to be okay too. And this can come in many, many forms. But let me give you an example of what happened in my first church. Now, my wife mentions to me afterwards that for the first 6 weeks, every evening I was out. And as I look back on that, I see that I was trying to prove to the people that I'm a hard worker, I'm committed. I was also trying to prove that to myself as well. And so I've tried to regulate myself and making sure that in my work, I do have breaks. We also need to check our motives in ministry. Now, for some people, I don't think there are too many, but there are some people who like the attention that a leader gets. And it can so often lead to pride. That is most unhelpful. And we either need to step out of ministry or humble ourselves and let God exalt us in his way. And remember, of course, we are servants. We are not kings. The fourth point is moral failure or moral injury. What do I mean by that? Well, moral failure is when we have a set of values and we do something and we let ourselves down. Now, it could be, for example, sexual indiscretion. It could be some note of dishonesty or fraud. There can be a number of things where we feel shame and we feel guilty. Now, when that happens, we must bring it out into the light. We must confess that sin to God. And if we have hurt people, we need to confess it to them and ask for their forgiveness. But when it comes to moral injury, it's something a little different. It's when we have a value system, but we are forced to work below that value system. It can come, for example, for doctors who have, say, 10 minutes allotted for each patient. And they know that they have to give that patient 20 minutes, but they can't do it. And so they're going against their values. That's a very stressful situation. In a lesser situation, I think I experienced moral injury. Again, coming back to my first church, I felt, and this is an exaggeration, of course, I felt like I had to get permission from the congregation to change a light bulb. I felt so restricted in my leadership. And the model didn't suit me, the model of the congregation. I wanted to be in a situation that I was part of a team, and the team were entrusted to give leadership to the church so that when any big decisions came along, the church were informed. And when I moved out of that first church, I made sure that I was compliant with the type of governance that suited me. I like the fifth point, which is learn to walk in peace. In the 19th century, there was a lady who wrote a book, and it was entitled Of Interior Peace. It talks about with our walk with God, we need to walk with peace. I mean, we know that Jesus talks a lot about peace, and the scripture's full of examples of when we need to have peace with God. And there are times when I do not have that peace, and I need to bring this out into the open and reflect on it. Have I done something wrong? Have I committed a sin? Or am I just full of anxiety And I need to reflect on that and sort it out and restore that peace with God. It's wonderful when we walk in peace, even though we might experience some turbulence around us. The sixth point is that we need to have breaks from time to time. And often the best break we can have, of course, are holding a retreat day. And so some of my special moments as I look back, I can think of the times when there was a bush area not too far from where I lived and I could get away for the day. It was a chance to unwind. It was a chance to reflect, a chance to intercede. And after a day, I came back somewhat refreshed. Other times I might have the retreat at home, or I might go to a monastery and have some guided retreat with somebody leading me for the day. And so finally, I want to talk about the importance of a trusted advisor, preferably a skilled advisor and somebody who was a believer. It's good to be able to unload our hearts. And I'm not talking about just once, but in this journey of burnout, going into it, coming out of it, we need to regularly be in contact with somebody. One time we were very stressed in ministry, my wife and myself, and we went to the doctor and explained we were so stressed. And he wrote a lovely letter to the team I was working with, explaining it would be very helpful for them to have a fortnight off. And of course the team endorsed that. We came back very refreshed. So don't forget there's a link below that will lead you to the paper on burnout. But I want to leave you with a verse. It's from 2 Thessalonians 5:24. Faithful is he who called you, who will also do it. God bless you.